The Alien Council's decision. In a distant corner of the galaxy, on a planet that hovered in the shadows of two dying suns, the Grand Council of the Galactic Empires convened. This was not a peaceful meeting. The air was thick with tension, and the chambers of the council hall echoed with the voices of alien leaders, each representing different species from across the universe. The topic on the table was Earth, a small, seemingly insignificant planet, but one that had drawn the attention of the most powerful beings in existence. The council room was enormous, a grand structure made of shimmering crystal that reflected the light from the twin suns above. Alien representatives sat in their seats, each species vastly different from the others. Some were tall, with skin that glowed like liquid metal. Others were short and stout, their faces hidden behind complex masks. But despite their differences, all shared a common purpose: to decide the fate of Earth. At the center of the room, the leader of the council, a towering figure from the Saltharian Empire, stood silent. His eyes glowed with an eerie green light, and his voice was deep and powerful. He had called this meeting after receiving troubling reports from the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Earth, a planet once thought of as weak and primitive, had begun to show signs of extraordinary resilience. Their technology, though primitive compared to the advanced weapons of the empires, had begun to advance rapidly. Their species, humans, had started to reach out into space, and it was only a matter of time before they became a threat to the established order. "We must act," the Saltharian leader said, his voice reverberating through the room. "The humans are no longer as insignificant as they once were. Their technological advancements are rising faster than we anticipated. They must be contained before they become a danger to us all." The room fell silent. Many of the other leaders in the council had long regarded Earth as little more than a curiosity, a planet of weak, fragile creatures who could never pose a threat to the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. But now, the mood had shifted. There were murmurs of concern. Some spoke of the humans' rapid advancements in artificial intelligence, their space exploration programs, and the strange, untapped potential that seemed to lie within them. A leader from the Toro species, a race known for their strategic brilliance, spoke up. "Containment is not enough," he said, his voice low but filled with authority. "We must enslave them. We cannot risk them becoming a power that can challenge us. They are a danger that must be controlled." A ripple of agreement passed through the room. The idea of enslaving the humans was not new, but it had never been seriously considered before. Now, with the rising threat that Earth posed, the Council began to see it as a necessary action. "We shall vote," the Saltharian leader announced. "We will decide whether to enslave Earth and its inhabitants, or to allow them to continue their path toward inevitable destruction." The voting was done by each representative pressing a button that would send a signal to the council leader's seat. The decision was crucial, and the pressure was immense. A single misstep could change the course of galactic history. One by one, the votes came in. The council members' expressions were grim as they read the results. The vote was unanimous. Earth's fate had been sealed. The galaxy's most powerful species had decided that the humans, with their growing power and defiance, would be enslaved. They would be brought under control, forced to submit to the will of the galactic empires. The council leader raised his hand, signaling the end of the vote. "It is done," he declared. "Earth will fall, and the humans will know their place." But even as he spoke those words, a sense of unease began to settle over the council. Some could not shake the feeling that they had just made a grave mistake. They had voted to enslave an entire planet, to crush the spirit of a species that had shown such promise. The humans were unpredictable, and their resistance could be fiercer than they realized. One figure in the back of the room, a lesser-known alien from a forgotten species, watched the proceedings with quiet concern. His eyes were narrowed, and his mind raced. He had heard the reports, seen the signs, and he knew the humans were not as weak as they seemed. He feared that the decision the council had just made would lead to unforeseen consequences. But he kept his thoughts to himself, knowing that challenging the council at this moment would be futile. For now, Earth's fate was sealed. The invasion would begin soon, and the galaxy would soon see if the humans could truly be contained. As the council adjourned, the leader of the Soltharian Empire stepped down from the podium. "Prepare the fleets," he commanded. "We move on Earth within the week." And as the alien leaders filed out of the room, the quiet figure in the back of the chamber lingered for a moment longer. He knew this was only the beginning. Something told him that Earth's story was far from over, and the galaxy was about to be thrown into turmoil. Earth's last hope. Back on Earth, the news was already spreading like wildfire. The governments of the world had received the transmission from the Galactic Council. The message was simple but chilling. Earth had been voted to be enslaved by the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The alien forces would arrive soon to enforce their will. Panic erupted across every continent. People rushed to the streets, some in fear, others in anger. News outlets flooded the airwaves with live coverage of world leaders trying to calm the public. But the truth was undeniable. Humanity was facing its darkest hour. Leaders met in emergency summits, each hoping for a solution, but all came to the same conclusion. There was no way to fight the alien forces. Their technology was too advanced, and their armies too powerful. Earth, with all its advancements, could not stand against such an invasion. In the heart of this chaos, one man stood apart from the rest. A scientist named Dr. Emily Carter. She had been studying alien technology for years, hoping to understand the universe and perhaps make contact with other life forms. Now, this research would be humanity's last hope. Dr. Carter was not a leader, nor a soldier, but she understood one thing that the world's leaders did not. Humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology, but in its adaptability and will to survive. As she sat in her lab, reviewing the reports of Earth's fate, an idea began to form. If humanity could understand the aliens' weaknesses, if they could exploit them, perhaps there was a chance for survival. But time was running out, and every moment was precious. She called an emergency meeting with the top military leaders, hoping to convince them of the urgency of her plan. The room was filled with high-ranking generals and strategists, each one wearing the weight of the world on their shoulders. "Look," Dr. Carter began, standing in front of the table filled with maps and data, "we cannot fight them on their terms. We need to understand their technology, their tactics, and most importantly, their weaknesses." One of the generals scoffed. "We're talking about the most advanced species in the galaxy. We've seen their ships, their weapons. How do you expect us to stand a chance?" Dr. Carter's eyes narrowed as she addressed the group. "We don't need to match their power. We need to outthink them. They may have better technology, but they lack something we have: the unpredictability of the human spirit. If we can get access to their systems, if we can infiltrate their communications, we might be able to turn the tide." The generals exchanged uneasy glances. The idea of hacking into the alien network seemed far-fetched, but they had no better options. Dr. Carter's plan was humanity's last hope. Meanwhile, across the world, pockets of resistance began to form. People who had once been ordinary citizens, engineers, soldiers, hackers, came together, realizing that this would be their only chance to fight back. They were not prepared for an intergalactic war, but they were willing to do whatever it took. Dr. Carter worked tirelessly, coordinating with the resistance. The first step was to learn everything they could about the alien fleet and their command structure. Using satellite technology, they'd managed to intercept communications from the alien forces, but it was fragmented and encrypted. It was a long shot, but they had to try. As the days passed, the world braced for the arrival of the alien fleet. The skies were filled with strange ships that appeared like shadows against the setting sun. The first wave of invasion was upon them. Cities fell under alien control one by one. The streets of major capitals turned into battlegrounds, with military forces trying desperately to hold their ground. But nothing could stop the alien advance. Yet, amidst the destruction and hopelessness, there was a flicker of hope. Dr. Carter's team had managed to break through one of the alien communication channels. What they found was both horrifying and enlightening. A weakness in the aliens' power source, something that could be exploited, but only if they could get close enough. A small group of resistance fighters, armed with knowledge of the alien network, prepared to infiltrate one of the largest enemy ships. It was a suicide mission, but it was humanity's best chance. Dr. Carter, watching from her lab, knew that if they failed, humanity would be lost. The countdown to the final assault began. The humans had no choice but to throw everything they had at the invaders. They could only hope that their determination and ingenuity would be enough to change the course of history. As the alien fleet hovered above Earth, ready to crush any remaining resistance, the humans prepared for one final desperate attempt to survive. It was a battle of intelligence, strength, and willpower, and no one knew if they would emerge victorious. But there was one thing they all knew: humanity would never give up without a fight. The invasion begins. The day the alien forces descended upon Earth was unlike any other in history. The sky, once clear and filled with the light of the sun, now darkened with the shadows of enormous ships. These ships, towering and menacing, blotted out the light as they descended slowly, their massive forms casting a pall over entire cities. The world's defenses, once a proud display of human ingenuity, stood little chance against the overwhelming power of the invaders. In the bustling city of New York, the first wave of alien forces touched down with a thunderous roar. The streets shook as enormous landing crafts, each the size of a skyscraper, released armies of armored warriors. Their appearance was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Tall, fearsome beings with glowing eyes and armor that shimmered with advanced technology. They moved with terrifying precision, their weapons crackling with deadly energy. The human military, already on high alert, launched their counterattack almost immediately. Jets soared into the sky, firing missiles at the alien ships, but they were quickly swatted aside by shields that deflected any weaponry. The first few blasts were met with little more than laughter from the invaders. They had expected the humans to resist, but their resistance was nothing more than a futile gesture. As the alien warriors advanced, civilians ran in panic, but many were caught in the chaos. Streets became battlegrounds. Tanks rumbled through the streets, trying to provide a semblance of defense, but they were no match for the alien soldiers' superior weaponry. A single shot from an alien gun could melt through reinforced steel, and soldiers who tried to stand their ground were vaporized in seconds. Meanwhile, in the heart of the war room, Dr. Carter's team continued to scramble for any advantage they could find. They had been working tirelessly, hacking into the alien communications network, but the encryption was unlike anything they had encountered. Every time they thought they had broken through, a new layer of defense was added. It seemed as though the aliens were expecting a counterattack. But they couldn't give up now. The fate of Earth depended on it. Dr. Carter looked at the data streaming across her screen, her mind racing. "We need to disrupt their power grid," she muttered to herself. "If we can knock out their central energy source, we might be able to stop their weapons. We can't let them build up more momentum." In a darkened underground facility, a small group of soldiers who had survived the initial wave gathered. They were among the few human forces left that had managed to evade capture or death. Their leader, a seasoned commander named Captain James Holt, knew they had little time. The aliens were pushing forward, their relentless assault not slowing down for anyone. "We're going in," Captain Holt said, looking at his team. "We're going to infiltrate one of their ships and gather intel. If Dr. Carter's theory is correct, we need to find the power core and plant explosives to bring it down." The soldiers nodded in agreement, their faces grim. They had lost so many of their comrades already, and this mission was a suicide run. But they were humanity's last hope. They would not let Earth fall without a fight. As Captain Holt and his team made their way to the alien ship, the sound of explosions and gunfire filled the air. The streets were now a war zone, with bodies, both human and alien, strewn across the pavement. The resistance had grown in number, with civilians now taking up arms to defend their homes. But no matter how brave the human spirit was, the alien forces were overwhelming. It seemed as though humanity was on the brink of annihilation. The resistance had no time to waste. As they prepared to board the alien vessel, their hearts raced. They knew that if they failed, there would be no coming back. Earth would fall, and their species would be enslaved forever. Back in Dr. Carter's lab, she had one final tool in her arsenal, a virus she had designed to infiltrate the alien network and disable their power grid. It was a long shot. She had no idea whether it would even work, but it was their best chance. She sent the virus through the network, praying that it would find its way into the heart of the alien systems. Inside the alien ship, Captain Holt and his team had made it to the central control room. They fought their way through alien soldiers, their weapons glowing with lethal energy, but the soldiers pressed forward, relentless and unyielding. The humans had no choice but to keep moving. Almost there, Captain Holt whispered, his voice tense. The countdown had begun. In mere moments, the virus would either succeed or fail. If it succeeded, it would disrupt the power core, and the aliens would lose control of their weapons. If it failed, they were finished. With a final push, the humans reached the core, and as they planted the explosives, they heard a sudden beep. Dr. Carter's voice came through their comms, her voice tense but hopeful. It's working. The virus is getting through. I think it's... Before she could finish her sentence, the alien ship began to tremble. The power systems flickered and lights went out. Something was happening. The humans had a momentary hope that they might succeed. But then, as quickly as it began, the tremors stopped. The alien forces, realizing something had gone wrong, scrambled to regain control of their ships. It was a race against time. The humans had planted the explosives, but the aliens were fighting back harder than ever. Would the virus be enough to stop them before it was too late? The battle was far from over. The fight for Earth had just begun. The unexpected turn. As the alien forces scrambled to regain control of their power systems, the unexpected happened. For the first time since the invasion began, a crack appeared in the seemingly impenetrable armor of the invaders. The virus that Dr. Carter had unleashed was causing havoc within their systems, disrupting their technology in ways the aliens had never anticipated. In the heart of the alien fleet, their commanders scrambled to reestablish their control. They hadn't expected the humans to fight back with such ingenuity. Their advanced technology, built to be infallible, was now showing cracks, vulnerabilities that the humans had managed to exploit. The invaders had underestimated the resilience and adaptability of humanity. Back on Earth, the resistance fighters who had infiltrated the alien ship felt the tremors. The central core that powered the alien ship was faltering. The once unyielding energy shields flickered and dimmed, leaving the ships vulnerable for the first time. Captain Holt and his team, battered but determined, made their move. They rushed through the corridors of the ship, knowing that the aliens were beginning to realize something was wrong. "We need to get out of here now," shouted Holt, as he led the charge. "The countdown to detonation is only minutes away. If we're still here when those explosives go off..." He didn't finish his sentence. There was no time for fear. With the alien forces growing more desperate, the humans had to move faster. Holt and his team had one chance to escape. The alien warriors were closing in on them, but they pushed forward, narrowly dodging blasts from energy weapons that sliced through the walls. As they reached the ship's exit bay, Holt activated the detonator. The countdown began. "We've done our part," he said, breathing heavily, his eyes scanning for the incoming wave of alien soldiers. "Now, let's hope the rest works." Far from the battlefield, Dr. Carter continued to monitor the results. She saw the alien ships starting to falter. Some of the massive vessels appeared to be losing their structural integrity, and their shields were failing. The virus was doing its job, but it wasn't enough yet. Earth's resistance needed more time. But as hope swelled, it quickly turned into doubt. From her lab, Dr. Carter witnessed an unsettling development. The alien forces were calling in reinforcements, larger ships, more firepower, and a terrifying new weapon that could wipe out entire cities in an instant. The invaders were prepared for resistance, and their backup was arriving in full force. The humans had only one brief window of opportunity to act before the alien reinforcements arrived. In the middle of the chaos, a small group of humans, now united as a resistance, began to realize that this was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a battle for the very future of Earth itself. But they could not defeat the alien empire by force alone. The humans needed a new strategy, one that would outsmart the invaders, something the aliens were not prepared for. As the final battle raged on in the streets and above Earth's skies, the human resistance began to implement their new plan. They began to sabotage the alien reinforcements, targeting their communication systems and disrupting the launch of additional weapons. The humans had learned quickly. They needed to stay one step ahead of the aliens if they had any hope of survival. But it wasn't just technology that gave humans the edge. It was their unpredictable nature. While the aliens had planned every move, anticipating a swift and easy conquest, the humans adapted, shifting their tactics as quickly as the invaders could react. In the heart of the city, a small group of resistance fighters, led by Holt, began organizing attacks on the alien command centers. They worked in secret, striking in the dead of night, using the element of surprise to disable the remaining alien forces. Holt, once just a soldier, was now a symbol of human resilience, and his team had become the vanguard of Earth's fight for freedom. Back in space, the alien reinforcements began to land, their ships descending like a storm. Their commanders were confident, believing that the humans' resistance was futile. But as they made their descent, their ships suddenly encountered interference, signal disruptions, energy bursts, and unexpected electrical malfunctions. The virus was still at work, and the alien fleet was starting to lose its grip on Earth. The battle for Earth had reached a turning point. The humans, against all odds, had found a way to fight back. With the alien ships weakened and their forces stretched thin, it was no longer just a matter of survival. The invaders had underestimated the humans. The resistance was growing stronger, and the aliens were beginning to see that their victory was far from assured. Now the humans had a chance. Their greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their will to survive, their ability to adapt and overcome. And as the alien fleet started to falter, the resistance felt something they hadn't felt since the invasion began: hope. The tables turned. As the alien forces began to weaken, something incredible started to happen. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity was beginning to turn the tide. The alien fleet, once an unstoppable force, was now being disrupted on all fronts. Their power grids were malfunctioning, their ships were losing power, and their weapons systems were failing. The humans had found their opening, and they seized it with everything they had. Dr. Carter's virus had done its job, but now humanity's resistance needed to take full advantage of the chaos. The alien ships that had once filled the skies with their overwhelming might were now vulnerable. The shields that had protected them were flickering and dimming, their weapons systems unable to fire at full power. It was as though the very fabric of the alien empire was beginning to unravel. On the ground, the resistance fighters were pushing back with renewed strength. Captain Holt, now a symbol of the fight for Earth's survival, led his troops through the streets of New York, which had been transformed into a battlefield. They launched precision strikes on the alien command centers, targeting their communications and energy sources. The aliens, distracted by the unexpected failures in their technology, struggled to regroup. "Keep moving," Captain Holt shouted, his voice hoarse from the chaos. "We've got them on the run now. Let's make sure they don't recover." The human soldiers, fueled by the knowledge that they were no longer fighting a losing battle, fought harder than ever. Each victory, no matter how small, added to their momentum. The tide was shifting, and the aliens could feel it. In space, the situation was even more dire for the invaders. The massive ships that had once been so imposing were now drifting helplessly. The alien commanders, who had been so confident in their victory, were now scrambling to regain control. The mysterious figure from the council, the one who had silently warned of underestimating the humans, watched from his own ship, hoping the resistance would not succeed. His fears were now coming to life as the alien fleet began to fall apart. "Report," the Exaltharian leader barked, his glowing green eyes flashing with anger. "Why are our ships losing power? Why have we been unable to restore control?" "The human virus has infiltrated our systems," one of his subordinates stammered. "We are unable to regain full control. The energy grid is compromised. We cannot mobilize our weapons in time." The Exaltharian leader's anger boiled over. "This is impossible. We were supposed to crush them easily. How could they have turned this around?" The aliens had made a fatal mistake. They thought they could simply invade Earth, enslave its people, and bend the planet to their will. But what they hadn't counted on was the unpredictability and resilience of humanity. They had underestimated the human will to survive, the ability to fight for freedom against overwhelming odds. As the aliens scrambled to regain their footing, Earth's forces pressed the attack. The resistance, now more organized and determined than ever, launched coordinated strikes on key alien positions. The Exaltharian leader knew that if they couldn't regain control quickly, the entire invasion would be lost. But it was already too late. The resistance had gained too much ground. The alien ships were beginning to break apart under the strain of the virus, their systems collapsing one by one. The ground forces, too, were faltering. The once mighty alien warriors, who had walked through cities unchallenged, were now retreating in disarray, their weapons failing to fire. Dr. Carter watched from her lab, her heart racing. The virus was working beyond her expectations, but it was the human spirit that was truly turning the tables. She had always believed that humanity's greatest strength lay in its adaptability, and now the aliens were seeing the truth of that. "It's working. It's really working," she whispered to herself, as the last remnants of the alien fleet began to retreat. "We might actually win this." But there was no time to celebrate. The battle was far from over, and the aliens were not going to go down without a fight. They still had reinforcements coming, and there was no telling how much time humanity had before the invaders regrouped. Captain Holt and his team, fighting tooth and nail for every inch of ground, knew they couldn't stop now. They had to push forward, to take advantage of the alien vulnerability before it was too late. If they faltered, even for a moment, the aliens would regroup, and Earth's brief victory would be lost. As Holt and his team moved through the wreckage of alien technology, he looked up at the skyline, where the massive alien ships once loomed. It was now quiet, eerily quiet. The once invincible alien empire was crumbling, but the resistance knew that they couldn't afford to relax. They had to keep pushing until the last alien was defeated. The tables had turned, but the war was far from over. The resistance was growing stronger, and with every alien ship that fell, humanity's hope grew brighter. But even as the aliens retreated, there were still whispers of something far worse. The final weapon, the one that could destroy Earth in an instant. The humans had won this battle, but they knew the final confrontation was yet to come. The fight for Earth had reached its most critical moment, and humanity was ready to face whatever came next. The final plea for mercy. The alien retreat was in full swing, but Earth was far from safe. The once immense fleet that had threatened to crush the planet had been reduced to a fraction of its former strength. Yet the aliens were not giving up. Hidden in the shadows, they still held their most dangerous weapon, a final desperate card that could obliterate entire cities with a single strike. It was a weapon that could wipe out the last remnants of human resistance in one fell swoop. Dr. Carter and the resistance knew that while they had pushed the aliens back, the true test had yet to come. The alien commanders, realizing that their invasion was slipping from their grasp, began to prepare for their ultimate weapon. It was the last, desperate measure to preserve their empire's dominance, a weapon so powerful it could lay waste to Earth in moments. But humanity wasn't about to let that happen. The resistance fighters, now battle-hardened and more united than ever, launched a final assault. Captain Holt, the leader of the human forces, organized one last push to reach the heart of the alien command ship. The goal was clear: destroy the final weapon before it could be used. With every passing moment, the weight of the mission grew heavier. The aliens were desperate, and they would stop at nothing to see humanity crushed. As Captain Holt and his team stormed through the corridors of the alien command ship, they encountered the fiercest resistance yet. Alien warriors, their armor glowing with energy, fought with everything they had left. But the humans, driven by their will to survive, fought harder. They had already defied the odds once, and they were willing to do it again. They could see the alien weapon in the distance, massive and terrifying, ready to unleash destruction upon Earth. "Keep moving," Captain Holt shouted as they fought their way through alien forces. "We can't stop now. We're almost there." Back on Earth, the remaining alien ships hovered ominously above the cities. Their commanders, now desperate, prepared to activate their weapon. But as they did, something unexpected occurred. The mysterious figure from the Alien Council, the one who had quietly warned of the potential strength of humanity, contacted the resistance. His voice came through their comm system, calm and steady. "The weapon you face is not the only danger," he said, "but it is the only way to stop the madness now. I once believed that humanity was doomed, that it could not stand against the might of our empire. But I have seen something in you, something I never imagined. You are not like the other species we've conquered. You fight with a strength we do not understand." Captain Holt stopped for a moment, stunned by the alien's words. The figure continued, his voice now tinged with urgency. "I am not here to save you, but I can give you one last chance. If you destroy the weapon, I will ensure that the Alien Council hears your plea. You will have a seat at the table. The decision will be yours. You can decide Earth's fate, and perhaps you can show the galaxy that humanity's place is not as a slave, but as an equal." It was the first time Holt had ever heard of such a thing. An alien offering mercy. It was a rare, almost impossible offer in the galaxy's history. But the figure's words held weight. Humanity had fought for this moment. They had fought for their freedom, their dignity. And now they had a choice. It was an offer to end the war not with destruction, but with a diplomatic victory. "You have no idea what you've done," the Exaltharian leader's voice echoed over the comms as he realized what was happening. "You humans should never have been given a chance. You have no place in the galaxy. We will destroy you all." But even as the alien leader railed in anger, the humans knew their next move. Captain Holt looked at his team, their faces smeared with dirt and blood, but their eyes burning with determination. "Let's end this," he said. "We'll take control of the weapon and give them a choice. They can surrender and leave, or face the consequences of underestimating us." In the Alien Command Center, the final moments of the battle played out in a whirlwind of desperate action. The humans, working together, breached the final defense, reaching the weapon. Captain Holt placed his hand on the activation panel, and with a single press, the weapon was disabled. But the battle wasn't over. The alien forces, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. With the destruction of their weapon and their command structure in shambles, they had no choice but to surrender. The Alien Council, witnessing the turn of events, had no choice but to acknowledge humanity's victory. They had been defeated by the very species they thought would be easy to subjugate. The invaders, now humbled and broken, sent a final communication to Earth. "We beg for mercy," the message said. "The Council has spoken. We surrender." The alien fleet, once so powerful, withdrew from Earth, leaving humanity victorious. The humans had faced the impossible and emerged not only as survivors, but as the masters of their own fate. And as Earth looked to its future, a new era began. One where humanity's resilience and bravery would be known throughout the galaxy. The species that had once been considered insignificant would now take its rightful place among the stars. The war was over. Earth had won. And for the first time, the aliens knew what it meant to be at the mercy of humans.